My humble respect to Guru Mahan, Guru Piran Sivasankaran, Guru Piranyo, fellow Jnanis. Today I'm going to continue with where I left off in terms of what happens to ourselves when we practice meditation intensively. And I've been going through the last few satsangs on how when we practice meditation, there are structural changes that takes place in our brain. Our brain is a very important hardware that enables our mind software. Mind is like a software to operate efficiently. The mind is the seat of us generating our thoughts, experiencing things. Gives a sense of generating thoughts, experiences, memories, and also our intellect depends very much on the thoughts that we generate. So it's really important to keep the hardware really operating very well. And I said there are a few things that we need to do to be able to keep our brain, working efficiently, particularly as we age. As we age, like all other parts of our body, the cells starts dying and things start slowing down, and the brain, parts of our brain controls our endocrinal systems, our hormones, and so on. And we see that as we age, as those, neural connectivity slows down, we see that, parts of our hormonal system starts changing, and that has an impact on the brain and the body. So meditation helps the neural connectivity in our brains to be in operational at a sustainable level. It helps that, what we call synapses and the connectivity in the brain to remain, active and keep it going so that we are able to age gracefully. The mind is able to still be alert, still be able to be efficient, productive, and help us to have a sense of emotional and psychological stability. And also, that is really important for us to, help us achieve a peace and tranquility and happiness. And I spoke about the different parts of our brains that essentially get stimulated when we practice meditation and when there are focus on parts of our brain as we meditate and intensify our neural connectivity. In the last few satsangs, I spoke about 9 areas of our brains that are stimulated, and each of those 9 areas has important functions for us as human beings. So here it is. I covered, I won't repeat, but, I covered, what I mean by, the neurotransmitters, different parts of our brains have different functions, from, helping us, with cognitive, help us to be in higher cognitive experiences, help us with, all our sensory organs and control our, endocrinal system and our hormones, help us with speech, understanding, sensing pain, also gives us a kind of a perception of the material world that we live in the form of color, form, motion. Also, language is very important. There are parts of our brain that are very important for language processing, verbal and non-verbal parts of our brain, that helps us with this verbal and non-verbal memory, learning, comprehensions. And we also spoke about, how the visual patterns, we recognize visual patterns, emotional processing, a sense of space and time, and also vibrations. Now, all these are very important, and we sometimes in our ordinary life, we don't really pay a lot of attention to. But as we age, we see that, some of our cognitive things slows down, hearing, sight, speech, and so on. And even worse still is that when we get some kind of, disorder or experiences of emotional turbulence, stress, depression, or some kind of a mental disorder, we see that parts of our brain starts shutting down, and that has a major impact on us. So Mahans and other great saints and sages said that the way for us to age gracefully is to actually introspect, contemplate, reflect, and meditate intensively, exercise the brain every day, every moment, and you see that the brain, gray matter, starts increasing in parts of your brain. That means it enables a lot more connectivity, a lot more highways, information highways that transforms into knowledge highways that helps the brain send signals, helps it process it, helps it, for the mind to function really well. So meditation has an important impact on the health of the brain, state of our mental and psychological state. It also helps us with learning and our intellect. And ultimately, it helps us to go deeper and experience very, very subtle things that an ordinary human mind misses. And I'll go a little bit more deeper on how this basic functions of the brain. And as we intensify meditation, we expand our brain's capacity, our mind's depth to be able to experience, our own consciousness and experience the DNA of the Creator that is embedded in all of us. These are very, very subtle things that the gross mind misses. So I want to now go on to the other part, which, I also spoke about the cerebrum, which is the one on the right, the back of the head, which helps us to control balance and, muscle coordination. And you see that as we age, this sometimes people are unable, the balance and coordination goes off. So it is in the interest of all of us to look after the health of our brain. And when we look after our body, we exercise, we eat well, all those things are very important. To keep the brain healthy, we also need to exercise. We also need to eat healthily. We also need to generate positive and inspirational thoughts, reduce our stress, bring a sense of sublimity and calm and cool, a sense of happiness and joy. All that things that I spoke about later comes if we practice the simple ICRM, introspection, contemplation, reflection, meditation. And you see that over time, you may be making micro level steps. That micro level steps has a macro level major impact over time to our own physiological state of our body, our brain, and also our mind. Today, I want to push into other things that are more important, other things that are important in our brain. And this is the 10th part, which is a much more deeper, granular aspect. And when I cover Mahan's meditation method, you'll see that these are the parts of the brain that will play a major role when we practice Kundalini meditation. So here you see that this, what we call limbic system, which is actually regulates our emotional state, processing, our social interaction. So also it helps us with our learning, our motivation, our memory. And this has got several parts to this. And sometimes even I myself, when I first started practicing meditation, I felt a sense of emotional calmness, coolness, a sense of, being able to relate to things around me, the social impact before you get agitated or you get frustrated or you get depressed. We're able to process that in a much more gentler, more calmer way. You see that before you had difficulty learning, at least when I was young, I found learning was very difficult, particularly memorizing. So I used to do really poorly in my studies. But after practicing this meditation, there was a change. And I found that I could learn better. I couldn't memorize, but I could learn better. And my memory bank improved significantly. I was telling somebody yesterday that I cannot memorize things, and that's why I used to do poorly in my studies. But through this practice, I learned myself mind mapping. I was telling them yesterday in one of the meditation session that over time I learned how to organize information effectively, and a 200 to 300 page book or notes, I can summarize it into 20 pages, the 20 pages into one page, and then even that page disappears. And the whole page is just registered in my mind. So when I go into an exam, if I first 10 to 20 minutes, I just reproduce back that one page. I will not read the questions of the exam. I'll reproduce that one page. And that one page will help me to produce 5 pages of summarized notes of all my 200 to 300 pages of notes. Then only I start addressing the questions. And normally the exams are 3 hours. The first half an hour I devote to unraveling this knowledge from that mind map. And once I have all that information with me, I can then answer the questions. And normally the exam, as I said, 3 hours, first half an hour is spent on this. So it's about introspection, contemplation, reflection, and meditation. And I'd finish the exam in 2 hours, and I still would have half an hour left. So this was something that I learned through the practice of meditation. Until today, I use that in a lot of my work, that I'm able to decipher a paper, a very technical paper, in 7 minutes. So here it is. And I didn't understand why this is the case. And I realized that there's something very interesting that is happening in my brain. And as I was practicing, there are parts of the limbic system that actually helps regulate the emotions, give calms, gives you the soothing, clarity. And there are parts of Mahan's quotes. He says that Arivin Arival, that experiential learning becomes more magnified, and then you get that Telivu is clarity of thought. So I started thinking about this a little bit more carefully. Why was this happening? And as I said in my previous satsangs, that when we meditate, when we intensify our meditation, the neural connectivity becomes stronger. Our circuit system becomes more integrated. Our telomeres, which, disintegrates over time, becomes more stronger and more connected. Gray matter in parts of your brain starts growing, even though you're aging. New folds in the brain starts taking place. That new folds gives you new dimensional experiences that ordinary people would not get. And this is what I believe Mahan and all the other great saints, through this process, were able to get fantastic insights on the universe around them, the universe within them, and also the interrelationship between the inner and the external cosmos. So I'm going to take you through physiologically what happens, and then how the physiological changes has an impact on the mind and the psychological state and that experience of the world. So I want to take you to more granular. There is a part of your brain called amygdala. Now, this is linked to fear and anxiety. And if these parts of the brain, is not well developed, you see, we see that, we people get fear, they get panic attacks. There's a sense of anxiety. They're unable to manage fear and anxiety. And we see that when we practice meditation, we see that this part of the brain starts evolving and developing, and we see that parts of the amygdala starts, it's linked to fear and anxiety. And the reason why this is the case is that through evolution, fear and anxiety is nature's way of giving us something to protect us from harm. So when people are fearful, they run away from danger, particularly animals and places that people live, which is very, very difficult, challenging, and so nature's built this in so that they can, run away or find ways to get away from that circumstances. And we see that, studies have shown that, half an hour meditation a day for about 8 weeks. These are studies that show that reduces the gray matter in the amygdala, which causes fear and anxiety, right? And it's linked to anxiety and fear. So we see that even Mahan has written this, that when we practice meditation, our sense of courage, our sense of, bravery starts increasing because this part of the brain starts shrinking and other parts of the brain around there starts expanding. So this is something that, whenever I hear people say, oh, Guru, I'm fearful of this and that. And I say, when you practice meditation, you see that this part of the brain will start being crowded out from all the other things later on I'll speak about that expands, and this amygdala starts reducing and the gray matter starts reducing there. And you see that the sense of fear starts disappearing. So again, anxiety slowly, starts. You start having a lot more positivity and a lot more courage to do this. So I've seen many people who, practice meditation when they first start. They have this fear and all those things. Over time, they become more and more braver. I know someone who is very fearful when they get into an elevator. They feel claustrophobia in a very confined space. But over the years, they were able to overcome that fear. Occasionally when they slip off, all the demons come back again, right? The second aspect is actually on the other part. You can see on the right-hand side, the parts of your brain that starts evolving as you start practicing meditation. So this thing called the hippocampus, which is somewhere here, looks like a horse ring here, right in the middle there. This is a very important part of our brain because this actually helps us form new memories, and it gives you spatial navigation. Where are you in your, at the current moment in your life? It gives you time, space, the relationship between those memories that are there and the new memories that are coming, and interconnection between them. It also plays a key role in converting all the memories that you're getting, the short-term memories, and processing it and storing it into long-term memories. These memories are very important because the memories help you for learning. If you don't remember things, you can't connect ideas, you can't connect things, right? So as we practice meditation, you see that this part of the brain actually starts developing. It increases in gray matter, right? When that gray matter increases, you see that your ability to form new ideas, and this is very important for researchers and scientists and people like Albert Einstein and all. I mean, you see that this part of the brain evolves, and that gives them fantastic, new ideas. And I believe Mahan also, as he was practicing, he started that part of the brain started evolving, and he was able to process that information faster. It's able to generate new information and the learning from this. It is said in this article that I've referenced here that if the brain were a network of roads, that means the brain has network of roads, the hippocampus might be like the GPS system, helping you navigate and remember where you have been. So every experience it has, it logs in. So it gives you, and then it's like an artificial intelligence, right? That continuously say, okay, you've been here, this is what the experience is, and so on. Now, if this part of the brain is dysfunctional, this is associated with memory and emotional disorders. So that means that you can't remember things. Sometimes people, do things and then they forget they have done. They keep repeating it, and so on. So if this part of the brain does not evolve or develop, you have all kinds of, memory problems and disorder. And sometimes this happens to many people who are aging. They say, I can't remember what I did. I can't remember if I took my pills, or I can't remember whether I've eaten. Right. Over time, as this part of the brain starts declining in gray matter, we see that depression sets in, anxiety, including related to Alzheimer's, and that's this part of the brain starts shrinking. And so it's really important that when we practice meditation, is so important to keep firing, let the neurons fire and keep the activity going. And that really helps us in terms of forming new memories and being alert. I've seen this with Mahan. Mahan was 80 years old and he was so alert. He used to travel around the world on his own, and he knew his place, where his what he was doing and so on. So I call upon those who are, aging or young people to invest time for meditation, because it really helps our brain the hardware to be very, very sound and solid to be able to help you go deeper. The other part is actually thalamus, which is also, now this is also an important part. You'll see this in the Mahan's I God book in page 225. He touches on it. I'm giving you a little bit more in depth. This thalamus is also, if you can see here, it is here somewhere in the middle of the brain there. It is what they call the body's information relay system. All information from the body, with the exception of the smell, comes through this thalamus. So it's like a processing center of information before it's sent to other parts of the brains to do whatever it is supposed to do. Send, make sure that if there are fear, it tells you if there's fear, release certain hormones, or let the heart pump and all those things, right? So this is the relay system of our relay for all information in our brain. This is also a very important, parts of our brain, which actually helps us with sleep and wakefulness, helping us to go to sleep, have a good rest, and wake us up. Also, with our consciousness, understanding who we are deeper. It's also linked to learning and memory. So we see that as gray matter in this part develops, we see that our relay system can withstand the decay or the decline in the aging process. And this is very important. That's why you see that when people age, when they don't practice meditation, there's a sense of slowness because the information is being relayed with a lot of lag. There's delay in information being transmitted. So the body coordination, the hand coordination, the leg coordination, the thinking coordination slows down. So again, we see that, meditation has got some, amazing things, if we practice this consistently. The other one is actually our motor control and coordination. I spoke about this. It has an impact, if you see the parts of our brain that actually controls. It's also linked to thalamus, that region there. That, if you see someone, when I see aging people, they kind of, their coordination is slow because the relay of information is slow, the eyes cannot coordinate, the hearing cannot coordinate, so it has an impact on their motor control and coordination. I must tell you something also that, whenever meditation, I tell people to sit in that position, certain asana position, because the asanas actually stimulate part of the brain. The chair position is okay, but we are so used to it, so the brain is used to it. But if you try a different position, the brain has to now think, and that new thinking enables parts of your brains to start functioning really well. The other one is actually the what we call the corpus callosum, which is actually, remember, the brain has two parts, which is the left and the right hemisphere. In between is the connection between the two hemispheres. That coordinates, that's a network of coordinating information between the two parts. Remember, the two parts have different functions, which, some are more analytic, some are more poetic. But when that central part is really highly connected, you see that the flow of information becomes more smoother. And you see that what you learn from an artistic perspective, you can analyze. So it is not disaggregated or disengaged information. It's more integrated, that gives you a much more richer experience of life. And the last one is actually on your, what they call factory bulb, which is actually helps you with your smell to the brain for analysis. So sometimes smell is very important. And this is the part that is so important. We have sensory information that is sending to the brain, and it's being coordinated to give you a full perspective of things. Why all this is really important? Yes, it helps us with our day-to-day life of experiencing the world, experiencing things. As we experience, we understand, we are more focused, the brain becomes more stimulated, our neural connectivity becomes better, our gray matter grows, the parts of your brains develop further, and there's a feedback experience that one gets. When this happens, when this part of the brains evolve and develop, the brain now has the bandwidth to go and expand its frequencies. An ordinary person may have this type of, the frequency is this, but now as it evolved, it expands its frequency. It can go to the highest level, and it also can experience the most subtlest experience of human existence, which is actually ultimately the vibration itself, the formless vibration itself. Right? And this is the part that is, and because the brain now bandwidth expands its frequency capacity, the mind can now understand those frequency much more deeper than an ordinary human mind. And that is why you see that Mahans and other great saints have amazing insights and intuition that an ordinary person would not have. So you see that as you practice meditation, your insights into things, your intuition into things becomes much more subtler. There are things that you can cognize, observe, experience that others wouldn't. Right? So your brain bandwidth expands, and it allows the mind and the intellect to experience subtle things that is so profound that gives you a sense of peace and sublimity. And meditation is a practice that causes physiological structural changes to the brain that enables our software called the mind and intellect to operate in a much more deeper, more refined way. So this is the kind of limbic system, and I just want to cover one more thing which is really important because it'll help us when we discuss Mahan's meditation method, the 3 stages of initiation and the parts of the brain it stimulates. The last one I want to cover in that continuum of 11 parts of the brain is actually the brain stem. You see the stem there? That's really important. There are blood vessels that are passing through. There are neural connectivity. And we see that so that part of the brain connects the brain and the spinal cord. This is the highway that takes all the electrical pulse, throughout the body, and helps with all the, managing all the other organs in the body. It's also critical for the heart rate because that flow of information is transmitted to the heart, the lungs, the breathing, all those things. So we see that, if there are blockages in your brainstem, we see that information flow, the blood flow becomes restricted. That impacts our heart function, our breathing, and so on. Now, when we practice meditation, that part of the brain becomes more developed. There's a lot more flow of energy. As the flow of energy passes through, that connectivity becomes more stronger. The more the flow, you see that the less likely it will be restricted, and you see that flow enables, the flow to the heart, to the lungs, and every other part becomes more efficient. So you see that for people who have very constricted, the heart has to beat really hard, and you get all kinds of pressure, enlarged heart, and all those things. The same thing with the lungs, that flow. So that part of the brain stem, as we practice meditation, becomes more and more stronger. We see that the neurons, we're able to build that, flow to the other parts of the brain. So here, the neuron connectivity found in the brain stem send. So there are a lot of neural connectivity in the brain stem that sends signals to the heart, to the the lungs, which helps us with our breathing, helps us with the pressure in our body, helps us with the oxygen that is in our bloodstream. All those things are really important. That is why we see that as we practice meditation, our heart rate actually becomes more calmer and cooler. Heartbeat starts slowing down. Our breathing slows down, right? Because now it's no more short breathing, it's much more deeper breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, that the whole body is flushed with oxygen, and it's being sent to the other parts of the body by the heart in a more calmer way. But if you have only partial, if your lungs are only 20%, 30% full of oxygen, the heart has to beat harder to send that at a faster pace throughout the body. So the heart has to work over time. And over time, the heart becomes enlarged. And this is when you have all other ailments coming in. You get blood pressure problems, when blood pressure leads to, kidney problems and so on. So we see that this meditation has got so much potential. Simple, very simple technique of practicing meditation helps the mind to develop the neural connectivity, helps the mind with all the different parts of the brain that manages our endocrinal system and pretty much the whole body itself. So Mahan, another great saint, says that you can, if you practice your meditation really well, it can replace the medications. Meditation itself is the greatest medication for all the ailments of the body, the mind, the intellect. So we see that there's so much benefits to the meditation, and you see that Mahan has documented these experiences that when you practice meditation, your clarity of thought is there. You can think deeper. You become more happier. You become more courageous. You become more creative. You become more innovative. Your whole demeanor changes. Your blood chemistry changes because your body now is flushed with a lot more oxygen. Your cellular growth is better. Your neural growth is better. All your telomeres in the brain synapses are, very well, developed. See, and the connectivity is very strong. There's highways that are forming where the flow of information is, and the electrical pulse are smooth without restriction. So we see that, Mahan has explained all this, in his own way. And later on, when I come to his meditation method, you could ask me, okay, he's talked about first stage, second stage, third stage, which part of the brain are stimulated? And this is something that I will cover in the next few satsangs. So what I wanted to cover today in the last few satsangs is to show you that meditation does not give you a mystical experience. Yes, if you don't know, you say, wow, I feel happy. Wow, I feel this, I feel that. It's like magic, something divine has descended upon me. Yes, something divine has descended, but it's not descended, it's emerging from ourselves, right? So what it shows us is that the brain is a very, very powerful tool. And if we learn to exercise it through meditation, through yoga, through good thoughts, and nurturing good values. So I spoke about the GP Mahan values, gratitude, positivity, all that reinforces parts of your brain to fire really well and change the structure of our brains from the limitedness to the limitless. And my God, life would be an amazing, amazing journey. And I've been doing this for more than 45 years. And yes, the first 10 years was a struggle. But after that, and even in that 10 years, I could see small, small changes. But over time, the sense of peace and the happiness and the clarity is amazing. Right? And we cannot afford not to do this. Right? So I hope that, among all of you all here, I hope that you would recognize that this is an integral part of living healthily and living in an enlightened way. If we don't look after our brain and our body, we see that life can be quite challenging. Life can be quite depressing, given that the current situation around the world, and we see in the media, sometimes, it is tough out there. But how do we insulate ourselves? How do we cope with the challenges? Here is a solution. It helps us to divinize all the challenges into opportunities for learning, scars into stars. And there are moments that we say it's impossible to do anything, impossible to make progress. But meditation helps us to transform the impossibility into I am possible. So this is what I have learned from this great Mahan's teachings. his meditation techniques, and his way of life. In the next class, I will go a little bit more deeper into his 3 stages of initiation and the 11 parts of the brain that are stimulated. I'm going to show you how, when one practices this meditation, how the fusion of the 11 parts leads to the blissful experience. I've gone through one by one of, if you practice this, what happens to neural pathway, what happens to our cerebrum, whatever. So one by one. But the next class, when I put all of them together and all of them, operate in a symphony, right? Because they don't operate separately. They all are in a symphony, in an orchestra like. And the divine symphony, you can actually feel the chorus vibrating very, very strongly, that life force, the divine force, that divine Bhagavan's Gita. You'd feel it resonating not just in the meditation moments, but every moment of your life, that connected state, that orchestra, the orchestrator. You see, it's not from outside, but from within you. You would discover the orchestrator, the creator, the divine, whatever you call that. And the symphony will start playing within you. And that's what I have discovered from this great Mahan's teachings and all the other Mahans that have, I've read and come to experience and met some of them. Thank you very much, Sandosha.